Smith. C4.
There's a fifth one walked in the door right now.
Oh, there he is.
Well, Professor hadn't showed up. Glasses
We called it today.
Well, there's somebody out there.
I figured, yeah.
We're all ready to go home.
Yeah, I know. We have somebody online.
All right. Thank you all for coming today. It is Monday, June 2nd, 3:30 p.m., and it's time to convene the regular meeting of the Transportation Commission. And so we will start off with a roll call. Commissioner Ballard,
Present.
Mr. Shoemaker.
Here.
Commissioner Steed is out. Commissioner Hopkins
Here.
and Commissioner Lewis is out. Commissioner Smith,
Present.
Commissioner Leclerc, I'm present. Mr. Miller is not present.
Skipped over Lancaster.
Oh, I did. Ryan Lancaster, Commissioner Lancaster. Present.
Present.
And our ex officios, Kelly Brunner, ECHD,
Present.
Lila Kluffenstein,
Present.
Meridian Carson with West Ida.
Present.
No. Is she here?
Present.
Justin Price with ITD.
Mark Wallstall, ITD presenting and sitting in for Justin Price.
All right, thanks, Mark. Sergeant Smith, police. Oh, we have Corporal
Weitzel's here for Sergeant Smith.
and Bishop Murray, legal.
I'm here.
Okay. Oh, good. And Heather Hill. Present.
I'm present. And I wanted to note too, we do have, I don't know if you got Kate Dahl with VRT. She's over here. And if Kate,
Oh.
if you want to sit over
Oh.
here, you're welcome to.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Kate. All right, any others? Distinguished guests? All right, adoption of agenda. We have agenda before us. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Approval of minutes. I had something about the minutes. In the minutes, it says next meeting is July 7, 2025. And it's today, it's July 2, 2020. June 2, 2020. That correct? So,
Today is June 2.
okay. Any other corrections to the minutes?
What are you correcting on the minutes, please?
Very near the bottom of page 4 there, it says
Oh.
next meeting, July 7, 2025. Should be June 2, 2020,
Thank you.
from the May minutes. That's what I caught. So if there are no other additions or corrections, I would accept a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And all in favor, say aye.
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 And the motion passes. And so next we have old business transportation project updates. Ms. Hill.
Thank you. So for this afternoon, I don't have a lot of updates from our last meeting in May. So the transportation project updates begin on page 6 and go through page 13. Again, there's some updates on the Meridian downtown pedestrian improvement projects. And last month, we received a lot of updates from ITD. So those are still bolded if you weren't here last month, so you could see those updates. Just prior to this meeting, I did forward all of you a news release update that we got from ACHD about the U-Stick Black Cat to 10 Mile project in their recent construction update. So I forwarded that all to you. It didn't make it into your packet, but it was really just highlighting that Black Cat north of U-Stick is closed, that they are working on the concrete placement, and that will be every Monday and Wednesday. Speeds on U-Stick have been lowered to 30 miles per hour, and there's an interim signal at Black Cat and McMillan. So that's one update that is somewhat reflected in your packet, but a little bit separate. So that's all that I have this month for you, and I can stand for any questions.
Any questions from the commission? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. New business. We have State Highway 69, CUNA to Meridian Corridor Traffic Study, Mr. Wasdell. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, commissioners, for inviting us. My name is Mark Wallstall. I am a senior transportation planner with District 3, and next to me is
Leah Kelsey with DKS Associates, and behind me is Megan Romanesco. She's with DKS as well. She is here to offer emotional support, and she also did a fair amount of work on this study, so. I don't think we do it. Heather has.
we have to just Okay. Thank you. Overview of our presentation is we're going to cover the study background and purpose, look at the process and schedule, the existing future traffic, make that crash history, the proposed vision for the corridor, special considerations, and the public feedback we have received. Next slide. The background on State Highway 69, originally a 2-lane rural highway, 1931 was the construction plan set date. It was widened from 2 to 4 lanes from CUNA to Meridian, actually from Amity Road to Overland in the early 1990s, and then from CUNA to Amity Road in the early 2000s. We actually, in the second project, still have the environmental assessment reevaluation from the original environmental assessment in 1986. So we have some good background data there. We're looking, and as they did then, at increased development and traffic, increased crashes and delay times. And that environmental assessment reevaluation, the out year on it was 2022. So it's time to update it all. So the corridor vision, we wanted to keep traffic moving throughout the corridor, have safe and efficient access on and off the corridor, and also to provide safe facilities and crossings for bicyclists and pedestrians through multimodal. The schedule, even though we don't have it here, we started pre-COVID and we had an open house, whatever COVID was. The first ever virtual public open house was our project, and that was an on-the-fly change-up. Over that time, we had offered a number of different design facility types. At the same time, in Karcher Road, we'd had an environmental assessment, actually ended up being a categorical exclusion on that, and they had money to go to design as part of the TECM process. And they had a number of similar design features, but at that time, our headquarters was contemplating that you do have non-traditional designs that give you an incremental increase in performance, but at the same time, they are not intuitive and they don't meet Idaho driver expectation. An example, we showed through U turns where you drive like at State and
Veterans Memorial.
Memorial, where you drive through to make the turn, drive past and turn around. That was universally disliked by the participants of the virtual open house we had before. We also had a continuous flow intersection, which is where you cross the roadway before arriving at the intersection, and you use the same green light then to make your left turn instead of having a separate one. That was closer to 50-50. We showed one of those at Overland and Meridian. So as that process went on, I stood back and let that team work through that with our headquarters group. And it finally ended up that we were not going to do at that time going forward with non-traditional features. So we ended up rescoping our agreement and deciding on scenarios that incorporated traditional design. Then in 24, we updated our traffic model from the Compass 2045 to the then approved Compass 2050, met together with a technical team, and we ran through the preferred scenario, which our headquarters decided that a full access was something that they would support. So we met again with a technical team to bring that. We brought it before the public, April 7th through 21st in another public, online public involvement meeting. So now we're doing agency presentations to run through what we've done and what we've heard. And we're looking at having the final traffic report approved through District 3 in July.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I interrupt and ask,
Yes.
may I ask a question of the presenter? So, Mr. Wasdell, are you saying that project engineering decisions were made by a popularity contest during open house periods?
No, we actually, public involvement is not a popularity contest, but it's a feedback. So we understand that good engineering decisions may or may not be popular. But it's good to know as we respond to the public that ideas they had, although interesting, might not meet engineering specifications, or as we talk further down the line, budget and need. You can over-engineer something and pay a lot more and compared to engineering it just right for need at a lower budget, if that's what you're asking.
Is that helpful?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Wasdell.
May I ask a question?
Oh, yes. Commissioner Ballard.
When you used the expression, was it full access or access? What does that mean for a state highway?
Okay, we have an IDAPA policy, Idaho Administrative Policy Act, I think 3942, and there might be some other digits afterwards.
Administrative Procedures Act, but yeah.
Yes, and it points out by type of highway or freeway facility and the access that goes with that. It's broken down by whether it's a highway of state, regional, or local interest, whether it's rural, suburban, or urban. And some of those definitions, they're somewhat stretchable, depends who you talk to. Had an example of Mr. Price, I think had gone to a AASHTO conference that had federal highways there, and he showed pictures and says, Eagle Road, is this urban or rural? And they said, oh, that's suburban. But then he showed them Front Myrtle downtown and they said that's urban. So I know some people would say that Eagle Road is urban, but at least some traffic oriented people thought it was only suburban. And in there, your typical highway is either, if it's rural, you can have access, full access at the mile. And if it's suburban, that's at the half mile. So when we were looking at this, we treated it as a suburban highway, and pretty much where you're going to have essentially full access at the half mile as well as the mile, or you're going to have left turn only at the half mile. Or no access and just have a raised median run through and make you go to the mile. And we'll talk about that further down.
Well, so what I'm taking though is if this were built out, which it will be, and commercial buildings are now following that build out. So access is going to be limited at certain curb cuts, or will there be multiple curb cuts?
When the right-of-way was purchased in the late 1980s and late 1990s, they headquarter or the right-of-way section deeded the current access points. Essentially, if you had 3 access points to your farm approaches, they said you retain 3 access points, some of them at specific stationing. Sometimes they just said 3 points across the entire frontage. For the most part, they did not specify that was for agricultural approaches only.
Okay.
And because of that, we've got a lot of access points. As developers come in, we've tried our best to consolidate access points. But if you can't do that, then you have to buy them, and that's normally very expensive. Also, with access points per IDAPA, there are certain spacing minimums between access points. And that's another way to try to limit the amount, but there are access points directly between the intersections into and out of State Highway 69. The caveat is if you put they can be right in, right out only if you put a center line, raised median.
Raised median.
There we go. I kept thinking raised meridian, but I knew that wasn't right, in the wrong place. That does not impinge on their deeded access.
It wasn't a gotcha question. I was just-
No. It's just that this is a particular corridor in which they just deeded everything in sight, and that's not every corridor, which puts us into an interesting situation.
Okay. So would an alternative be to, well, I'd call them a taper or a third lane that you can, not like a frontage road, but you can get out of the 2 lanes and then access the lot that way?
We actually had some comments on having acceleration and deceleration lanes, what my traffic expert tells me.
Yeah, the distance that you need for the acceleration lanes on a high-speed highway would impinge on the next access. So you wouldn't be able to taper that acceleration lane in before you hit the next access. So it effectively would make it another lane. And that's kind of a safety issue.
So we can put, I think, deceleration in, but you can't have them both. They end up running into each other based upon the deeded access.
No, I appreciate that. I'm just trying to get an understanding. Thank you.
Any others? All right, thank you. Continue.
Yeah, no problem. Just a few notes about the existing and future traffic out there. So we look at this corridor in kind of 2 segments, the north-south Meridian Road segment, and then, which is higher speed, and the east-west Avalon Road segment, that short segment down near Cuna. So that north-south segment, the Meridian Road segment, currently is running at about 37,000 vehicles per day on the north end, the higher volume end. And by 2050, we're expecting that to more than double. That would put us at volumes that exceed Eagle Road today. The east-west section, that small section down by Cuna, the traffic is actually projected to decrease. And that's due to a potential future project to straighten out the Cuna curve, add a south leg, make it a 4-leg intersection. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the presentation.
I had comments on that, so we'll save that for later.
And next slide, please. So what does all that mean, all that extra traffic? We did extensive travel time modeling. We took some travel time runs, some measurements. With existing currently, the northbound AM commute is kind of the dominant direction, and the PM, it's southbound. We're looking at about 15 minutes from end to end on the 8 miles currently. Southbound, it's about 13. If we do nothing, that southbound PM commute only increases about 3 minutes, but the AM, we're expected to increase it to about 42 minutes, which is probably a little unrealistic, but that's assuming that we're trying to accommodate all the demand that Compass generated. There's probably going to be some redistribution, but it's telling us the story that there's a need to do something by 2050. And with the proposed vision that we'll get into in the future slides, we're expected to bring those travel times back down to existing or even beat them. Yeah, next slide. All right, a little bit about the crashes in the last 5 years. So the most recent data set goes from 2019 to 2023. We're still waiting on 24. But in that period of time, there was 579 crashes just on the State Highway 69 segments. If you're looking at just intersection-related crashes, we have about 500 more, a little more than 500. Along this segment, there were 5 crashes, 1 at Calderwood, 2 at Victory, 1 between Columbia and Hubbard, and 1 on the Cuna Curve. And just kind of a side note that 3 of those were drug and alcohol related. So, the northern end of the corridor is kind of busier. No surprise that more of the crashes were concentrated there. One thing to note is that on this corridor, 40% of those crashes are serious, which is the injury and fatal crashes, which is higher than the statewide rate of about 31% for all roadways, not necessarily similar roadways, but all roadways. But this segment has been flagged by ITD in their safety corridor analysis as exceeding the rates of similar types of corridors. So there is a safety issue out there currently. Next slide. So about the proposed vision, on the north-south Meridian Road segment, where the modeling has shown us that we need 7 lanes, so 3 travel lanes in each direction. It's currently 5. Mark mentioned the continuous raised median, which reduces the access to right in, right out, except for the mile locations and the half-mile locations. There will be a buffered 10-foot multi-use pathway on each side, outside of the right-of-way, preferably. It might need to be inside in some cases with narrow right-of-way. And then adding right turn lanes at all major intersections and access points for safety. So we can see here the cross-section on that north-south segment of Meridian Road. We have a buffer that's outside of the right-of-way where that would be preserved with development. Anywhere from 30 to 50 feet, and within that, we would locate our 10-foot multi-use pathway, preferably as far away from the road as possible. And then within the right-of-way, we would have an 8-foot buffer, which would include a bit of buffer space and the curb and gutter, which would be high-speed curb and gutter, 8-foot shoulders on each side, 3 12-foot travel lanes, and in the middle, we would have that 18-foot raised median.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Ballard.
may I interrupt and ask a question?
Absolutely.
On your slide here, cross-section, you have 12-foot lanes going north and south?
Yep.
And what would the speed be for that highway?
So I don't believe there are any speed limit changes proposed. Currently, the majority of it is 55. Once you get, I think, a little bit south of Calderwood is where it changes, or right around there. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, that we did not run the study as a speed determinant. I know that we have issues here going on with Eagle Road. I mean, some of that could be translated into 69 also, in terms of trying to control speed. From what
Well,
I understand, that's not my project, so it's just what I've read in the Transportation Commission.
I was
agenda.
just curious, 12-foot wide lane, that semi can be up to 8.5 feet across if they're pulling a 102 trailer. So your margin of error is about 1.5 feet on each side, threading the needle down through there at 55 miles an hour.
Just that we're running a standard 12-foot lane. I don't have Justin Price here. I was going to deflect all questions to him, but since I'm covering for him, I asked if I could deflect to Commissioner Lancaster, and I got a
Well-
smiley face emoji. But in terms of ITD design standards, I think 12-foot is our standard lane.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Ballard, I will concur. 12 feet is standard and preferred. So wider than 12 isn't recommended. And I dislike seeing anything less than 12 feet, like ACHD that uses 11 feet. There's my little dig.
Well, okay, I'm not trying to be obstreperous here. So the width of the lanes in the freeway, are those 12 or wider than that?
12 feet, Mr.
12 feet. Okay, I stand corrected then. Better get used to threading the needle. Thank you.
One last note on this, along this section where we have width, the drainage is expected to be rural drainage and swales or, other types of roadside treatment. We did a really brief drainage analysis, and in some locations, there's, some rock barriers that don't allow us to easily address drainage, but in other areas, there's pretty well draining soils. So it's something that will be worked out a little bit more in design, but we did give it a high level look.
And in the construction plan sets, we do have attached pages of French drains. Where those are out there now, I don't know, but they were part of the forgotten appendix sheets.
So currently out there, there's anywhere from 125 to 140-foot right-of-way. This proposed vision is needing 122-foot right-of-way. So we can fit within existing right-of-way in a lot of places, but other places we may need a little bit more depending on drainage, or if we, at intersections where we're widening to add turn lanes or dual left turn lanes.
It's a lopsided also. It's for the most part, it's 60 feet west of the center line and 65 to the east.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Ballard.
may I ask a question? I was trying to follow, but maybe didn't process it. So those French drains, are those drainage ditches or those irrigation ditches?
For stormwater drainage, correct?
Okay, so that's not affected whether or not that property remains agricultural.
No, I don't believe so. Yeah, this would just be preferably within the roadway right-of-way. So it would be ITD property that these French drains and drainage facilities would be located on.
Okay,
From my reading of the old environmental assessment reevaluation, there, as Leah said, there are some locations that have tight soils that don't drain well. So the French drains would punch through that hard layer, and there's a lot of basalt below there, which I presume drains well once you get your water.
okay, so
through
the
it.
drainage is down.
Yes.
It's not the drain.
Yeah, the designs there
Under
on
the
the-
road and on the other side.
On the sheets, yeah, we're all just.
Okay, all right, excuse me. All
Straightforward
right,
French
all right,
drains.
all right. I'll pay attention a little closer next time. Thank you.
Okay, for the east-west section, Avalon Street, that would be widened to just 5 continuous lanes. There's a little bit of 5-lane section there, and that would just be expanded to 5 continuous lanes. Here we would have on the western side, a 7-foot attached sidewalk, which there's currently attached sidewalk to K Street, and then it would transition into that 10-foot multi-use pathway between K and CUNA. And again, adding right turn lanes at all major intersections and approaches for safety. So yeah, this cross section from CUNA to K looks very similar. This is on the eastern side of that section. It looks very similar to the north-south section. The only difference here is that the median, the raised median, 18-foot median is replaced with a 14-foot two-way left turn lane for business access. And then on that kind of urban section, you know, the sidewalks are right up against the roadway. There's no shoulder, and then we have that 14-foot two-way left turn lane. In this case, we would have urban drainage with curb gutter that transports drainage to some off-site facility, a seepage bed or a retention pond of sorts. So a little bit more about that 18-foot raised median on the north-south section. We looked at a couple of different widths and settled on 18 feet because that allows for U-turns at the mid-mile traffic signals and mile signals for, you know, F350, which is, you know, kind of like the Idaho design passenger vehicle. Yeah, with that 18-foot median and the 3 through lanes and an 8-foot shoulder, they should easily be able to make a U-turn. And honestly, there's probably larger vehicles that can make the U-turn, but we couldn't, you know, can't advertise it as such. Again, on the ped bike facilities, the Avalon Road segment, 7-foot attached sidewalks that transition to the 10-foot multi-use pathways. And then all along the State Highway 69 segment, we'd have that multi-use path with an 8-foot buffer. There's a photo there that shows the concept on Chinden that's recently been widened and improved.
And I'll jump in. Both in the comprehensive plans of both cities of Meridian and CUNA, they have a special setback distance for new construction along Meridian Road. It's a standard 50 feet for City of Meridian. City of CUNA, it's residential 50 feet, business, retail business 30 feet. So when we have facilities outside of our current edge of pavement, we know that there is landscape room that we aren't going into buildings immediately.
Is there a question?
Nope.
Nope, okay. Yeah, and the ped bikes facilities, again, there's going to be crossing opportunities at the mile, single stage crossings. You hit the button and you'll be able to cross all in one go. You'll be able to do that at the mile and the half mile as those intersections are signalized. So a couple of special considerations. So on the northern end of the corridor in particular, we have limited right-of-way or steep cut fill slopes. So that makes it a little bit challenging to add an extra lane and a 10-foot pathway with a sufficient amount of buffer. So you know, some of the preliminary options that we were kicking around that will be explored a little further in the design stage are, if you can go to the next slide, maybe some sort of tiered concept where we put the multi-use pathway a little bit closer to the roadway to fit it within right-of-way or take minimal right-of-way, but that would have, it would be elevated to kind of give it a little bit more protection. And of course, there'd be a railing there. That could also be in conjunction with a retaining wall if in the steep cut slope section. So we don't need to acquire more right-of-way to get that cut slope in. Yeah, there's a couple of different options. I'll hand it over to Mark to talk about the remaining special considerations.
City of CUNA had gone through a planning project that they were looking at railroad crossing, an additional one. They really want to have Meridian Road extended down to Cunamora. Through their process, they ended up being a little short budget-wise, and they looked at a railroad or a crossing of the railroad and the Indian Creek from Cuna on the right, Avalon on the left, down to Kings Road. So in the end, we also included in our project turning the Cuna curve, eliminating it. That went in the late 80s. And going back to the future, 1931, if you look at the plan set, there is a four-way intersection at that location. We're proposing to reintroduce it. Even though I guess reintroduce it as a three-lane until whatever development would take place further south. In January, in coordination with Compass, we put in a build grant to do a planning environmental linkages study of extending Highway 69 down to Cunamora and looking at a Cunamora alignment that wouldn't cross the New York Canal 5 times. So that is supposed to be announced. We're now in June, sometime in June. We're feeling pretty good that that will not be canceled as a grant program. But of course, we don't know whether we will get an award for it. But that's a potential.
Mr. Ballard.
So you're contemplating a second railroad crossing if Meridian Road is extended or 16 or 69, excuse me?
We would anticipate that to be a grade separated crossing. Talking to our railroad coordinator, the railroad has a tendency to, we'll give you one, we'll take one away. So we would anticipate CUNA being, and I presume ACHD because it's their roadway, that they would be expected to close one of the two existing at-grade crossings in CUNA. No guarantee, but that seems to be the way. That,
So when you say a graded crossing, the road's going to go over the tracks, or the track's going to?
I think we'd go over like Northside Boulevard in Nampa,
Okay,
over the top.
okay, thank you.
Originally, we had Overland Road intersection. In our study, we had a half CFI, continuous flow intersection on Overland. ACHD did not care for that as a design solution. Consequently, we thought it better to project this forward as and actually now that we aren't doing continuous flow intersections either. That's an ideal project to do with ACHD directly on its own. We've done other projects like that where we contribute funds by lane miles going into the intersections. And that way we're both mutually doing the project, and whatever solution we come up with is gone through a process with both parties and is thoroughly vetted. No, don't change. Just getting ACHD to give me a thumbs up or down. We know it's a high capacity intersection. If you don't do it at grade, then it's going to have to be a vertical structure of some sort. That would be determined with a future study. That includes the nearby adjacent interchange, because they have to work, they're too close together, they have to tie together.
So Mark alluded a little bit earlier to the other options that were considered when we rescoped this project back in 23, 24. We landed on full access at all the half-mile intersections. The other two options reduced access at the half-mile intersection. So we looked at right in, right out, left in, which could potentially have the left ins signalized if they were warranted, and then just right in, right out. What we found through our modeling was all alternatives were within 1 minute of each other on the travel time, north and south. So they all kind of had similar results. There wasn't one that stood out, unlike when we modeled a bunch of unconventional corridor types. There was kind of some clear winners and losers. The benefit of the full access option too is that the half-mile intersections take some of the demand off of the major mile intersections like Victory, Amity, Lake Hazel, Deer Flat. And those intersections operate better. The demand is a little bit more spread out.
April 7th through 21st, we had our online meeting. 1,900 people visited, 135 comment forms within the site were filled out. Additional 18 people gave either a separate email comment or phone call. And roughly 55% expressed support, 29% did not, and 16% didn't address it directly. So we went through and
I had a question about these travel times. Are we measuring to Overland Road or is it not in the scope to measure the travel times clear to I-84 as we go north into Meridian? What was the scope of that, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we did model Overland and the interstate. Overland is a big choke point, and we assumed that a high capacity intersection solution in 2050 was already in place, so that wouldn't restrict the demand that basically the traffic that is able to enter the corridor and exit the corridor, so we could get apples to apples results with all of the different alternatives. So there's an assumption built in there that both the SPUI, the interchange, and Overland have a solution that allows enough traffic to flow south. So that is definitely a key project or study that needs to turn into a project that needs to happen in order for us to be able to serve the demand on 69. But that's a good question.
so from the comments we received back, the first converting Kuna curve into a standard intersection that was unanimously endorsed by those who had a comment on that. So I tell people that's a low to no risk go forward with project. Widening increased capacity, that was more of a way I looked at it, a 6 out of 7 approval with the 1 out of 7 either saying we should do transit in lieu of an additional lane, or we just don't need an additional lane because that just encourages growth. Or if you build an additional lane, it'll be filled out anyway, so it's exercise in futility. Those were pretty much the no explanations on that. Buffered multi-use pathway. That was actually fairly popular, like 29 out of 35 comments. The negatives were that, quote, you're going to have a 5-year-old on a bicycle next to a 55-mile-an-hour highway, like right on the edge of the curb. So those were that was the primary negative, that or no one was going to use it on those. Raised median, that was sort of a split decision. You'll also see it at the bottom of the concerns and dislikes. People liked it for safety. The way I read it, you had 29 more or less direct comments. Sometimes it's hard to more or less direct things. 18 out of 29 liked the raised median for safety. The remainder didn't like it because it cut off their current left turns that they have to access their driveways or public roadways. One public safety was that you could not get a emergency response vehicle through a raised median. And I'll just go off, when we had Karcher Road, we also had a raised median there, and the fire department out there said that I was concerned they wanted to be able to use the raised median to put a fire truck up on it, to drive on that to get past all the backed up traffic if you had to respond to a crash. I don't know what I sort of left it after the environmental part as they went to design. So I'm hoping that they designed it in a way that could accommodate emergency response vehicles driving on it. It'll be wide enough, I think. Just that you have to put the curbing on it. Not flat, but rolled.
Yeah, it's a certain type of curb that allows you to mount it a little easier. They use it for high speed
Well, no, and this,
Race
not
to-
for high speed, but it would be for, having a fire truck or another emergency
Mhm.
vehicle
Yeah.
driving on it.
Yeah,
So
kind of has a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
It's a little easier to navigate.
it can be engineered. But those were the for and against raised median. Right-hand turn lanes, everyone loves them. We had them in. And otherwise, overall safety improvement. Concerns, dislikes, universal dislike that there was no plan for an improvements at Overland Road and that other people put the I-84 interchange in. So for me, that's a no risk to say, go ahead and do something with Overland Road. For I-84, we do have, and the auxiliary lane project, because mostly people are saying they needed an extra on-ramp, northbound on-ramp lane, and that's what we'll be providing with that. Added number of signals. There was a lot of people who liked access control, a lot who didn't. Someone's not going to be happy in the end, no matter which way you go with that. There was a very strong dislike of having signalized intersections at the half mile. In our original types of improvements we looked at, we had expressways, we had like 17 people whining in an expressway. Oh, Fletcher, ready to jump in. The thing is, an expressway is at a fairly high cost compared to what we thought can work. Our budget is large, but not infinite. And also we'd be facing the issue of if you have a continuous flow facility and you terminate with high volumes at a non-continuous flow like Overland, if that doesn't change. As you can see, we're building right now at the Highway 16 extension, a system interchange. You really would have to put a system interchange in. And I'm sure there's a consultant at a very high cost who would love to figure that one out, but it was beyond the need at this time. We recognize that you would have more performance, but whether that would get budgeted at that when we have so many other we compete statewide with the other districts for funding. So we didn't go forward at this point with that.
I will say that was one of the initial alternatives that was modeled and evaluated back in 2019, 2020. We also did a benefit cost analysis on that, and it ranked at the very bottom just because the cost was so high compared to the traffic and safety benefit.
Acceleration, deceleration lanes, we talked about that you can do one or the other. So we'll have decel lanes put in by development, but otherwise it would just be another lane. And then we already discussed it somewhat, raised medians with limited access. There was a strong sense of people at the north end of the corridor complaining that they were being sacrificed for the needs of new growth at the southern end of the corridor. And that's why they were losing their access, their direct access. Left turns primarily left in or left out is what they were talking about. Yes, please. We actually had a number of people who had been at the first virtual public involvement meeting wanting us to reconsider, saying, don't listen to the naysayers, put that CFI back in, put those 3Us back in, put roundabouts in. So we weren't expecting to get comments like that, but there are a contingent of people who want to see non-standard intersections. A number of comments about increased noise and what mitigation there's going to be. This is not a construction or design for construction project, and that's handled typically at the environmental and design stage. Poor access at Calderwood, that's really within the intersection influence area of Overland. And that, if we're looking at Overland Road, would be one of the considerations there. Also, there was some lamentation, loss of a rural environment and community as putting this larger facility through. With speed limit changes, I always go back to, we were actually on the same Karcher Road project back in 09, 10, 11, 12. And it was split 50-50 down the middle there. Half the people said, you better not slow us down. And the other half said, slow us down, people are dying. So that's always going to be somewhere in the middle of a 50-50 split. So we'll complete the traffic study report. I have not seen the updated ITIP going to our board in 3 odd weeks. Right now in the current ITIP, we have a maintenance project scheduled for 2029. The bottom there in February, the IT board approved staff to pursue a STAR agreement with Brighton Development. We have a key number in our budget document for that. We do not have an agreement yet. That's expected this month, when I'm not sure. We have not been told what the high-end retailer is that allows the STAR agreement to be used. I know there's a lot of speculation out there, but we have not been told, so we're ignorant of that. Brighton Development, the STAR agreement is for it cannot exceed $35 million in improvements. Not all of that will be on State Highway 69. The Brighton-owned property is on the southeast corner of Lake Hazel, so they would also be making improvements on Lake Hazel. They have half a mile fronting, and I forgot how far, probably a half mile along Lake Hazel, I think. Our development services group is handling that, so I hear things, but I'm not directly involved. So to catch up on the other projects, the I-84 auxiliary lane project eastbound, we just went through the city here on a floodplain permit because we're adding an extra off-ramp lane at Eagle Road. So we'll have dual rights as well as dual lefts we have now. We had to floodplain permit that. We know we're working with the city of Meridian on extending their water pipe, I think sewer pipe, at least a casing on it. We still have a few other items to finish up. We're hoping to get that one done by the end of summer. I'd have it as a biddable package. I'm not sure. Right now, it's in the current budget. It's in year 31. I don't know whether it's being moved up at all or not. There was thought of it. I haven't seen the updated ITIP document. And then we have an I-84 mobility study. That one we kicked off in January 6th. We thought we were very clever collecting all the traffic information ahead of time until our consultant got a hold of it and found out that we had some fairly nice windstorms that rotated some of our cameras 360. And as we don't put our cameras out again before April or May, I think we're getting that finished up. I'll have a meeting tomorrow. But in the meantime, our consultant was putting together a traffic modeling for it. We just needed to have the current numbers to go into it. So part of that will be looking at adjacent intersections such as Overland Road. And we'll have data off of that for any future tasks we do with Overland and Meridian roads. That's everything.
Any other questions about other projects?
Mr. Chairman, I have a few questions.
All right.
So first question. In recent years, the legislature has passed legislation saying what transportation funding should be used for and what it shouldn't. In short, that it should be used for priority to vehicles, vehicular users over other users. I guess this affects this, or I ask about this project because you're here, but it could apply generally too. How does that affect transportation planning like this going forward?
I know in the past that we didn't do standalone projects and that it was like the Chinden Road widening, we did and have put in the 10-foot pathway as part of the roadway project. I have not received a legal analysis on how that affects ITD projects. I know for the STAR agreement, potential future STAR agreement, that's private money, does not require environmental clearance unless I think you hit a federal nexus on it. I don't think that law as private money would affect what they have. The project limits we have in our financial system for that one is Victory Road to Columbia, non-inclusive of the intersections. I'm not sure how far 35 million will take them on that as to what actually gets constructed. I know it's a good question further on, but I have not received direction on avoiding a multimodal facility as part of a corridor build. Might be there, but I haven't heard it yet. I haven't been handcuffed either, so.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lancaster.
So thank you for that answer. And my next question, so did the scope of work of the study, and so you talked about crash data, the crash statistics. So that's always looking back, right? Did the scope of the study include modeling predicted crashes going forward? So, for example, if you do nothing, these are how many crashes are expected to happen. If you do X, this number of crashes. If you do Y, this number of crashes, et cetera.
Yeah, you're right. We did only look at the crash history. It was more of a traffic study to develop a proposed vision for the traffic demand. We do know that medians will help reduce the crashes and the right turns will help reduce the crashes, but it wasn't a traffic and safety study. There was just a safety analysis component to complete it.
Okay. Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So a third question, I guess, can you explain to the commission how you come up with generally how you come up with the predicted travel time? I think anecdotally, most would say, well, this sounds similar to Eagle Road, right? Both in cross-section with, closed median, traffic volume-wise, right? Eagle Road is 55,000 vehicles per day now, and we're talking 70-ish, right, for Highway 69. And, anecdotally, it seems that it would take more than 15 minutes to drive 8 miles on State Highway 55, right, Eagle Road. So I guess generally explain, how do you come up with 15 minutes on State Highway 69? And does that include removal of the curve, of the CUNA curve, sending it through a signal instead of, non-controlled? Ready, set, go.
Yeah, good question. When we had this question at the RTEC meeting, it does include removing the CUNA curve and making that a four-way intersection with a signal. We worked with Compass to build out the half-mile roadway network. They updated their demographics with the 2050 model. So, they're working off of their best guess of what's going to be there in 2050. And we took that data, which the base model does not have that half-mile intersection network. So we wanted to make sure we included that. So we took that data and we built an existing conditions model and we calibrated that, the driver behavior, got our travel times to match our existing travel time measurements. And then we input our 2050 volumes in there, and that's how we got an estimate of what we think the future travel time is. There's also some signal timing assumptions we had to make. Our company does a lot of signal timing, so we, kind of made our best guess as to what the the signal timing would do in the AM versus the PM, knowing that we'd give more of a priority to the AM, and in the PM it would flip.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Hopefully those weren't too harassing questions.
No, they're good questions.
So, well, any other questions? Just have a concern. Seems like without improvements, well, sounds like there are improvements planned for Overland also. But just in scope of this study, it seemed like it would have been better to cover Overland also. From the perspective of Meridian, city of Meridian, I think we're going to have all this new traffic coming to Overland, and it's not changing. And it may, I don't know, if they're concerned it'll just be really super congested once 69 is upgraded, or is there thoughts about that are somewhere else that they can?
Yeah. As I said before, that we looked at grade, and that didn't match either agency's future. So going vertical, that's well, besides the cost on that more than horizontal, you really have to have both of us together in one project, and it was bigger than the project we had to be able to cover it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, there's kind of a eminent pressing need to figure out what the vision is on the rest of 69, because there's so much development coming in, and you guys are working with developers and need to be able to set their expectations as to what it's going to look like and how much,
Yeah, our
how much
development
impact there will
services,
be.
development
for
services
access.
group wanted roll plots because they had so many developers coming in and applications. And we wanted to show the cities what we had there, what ITD was telling developers, so UNA and Meridian would know what page we were on.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you know what that's gonna look like? Meridian Road's gonna look like Eagle Road when you come flying down Eagle Road till you get to Overland Road, and it all stops. And it takes about a half an hour to get past the hospital. That's what Meridian Road's gonna look like when you open that up and stop it at Overland. So we kind of already know what that's gonna look like.
All right. Well, one thing at a time, I guess. All right. Any other questions? Thank you very much. That's a very good presentation. Your study looks
Very
great.
thorough.
Appreciate it.
Chairman.
Thank you.
Commissioners. Thanks, guys.
Our next item, you need to talk to. Oh, okay. Is we have ACHD and their queuing analysis memo. It's in our packets. Do we want have ACHD do a little presentation, or what's the next step?
Mr. Chair, the memo that's in the agenda was prepared by Christy Little, who's the manager of development services at ACHD. It addresses ACHD's role when there is a queuing analysis, when ACHD will look at a queuing analysis, and kind of what they look for and how they utilize that information. It also provides a queuing analysis that has been used, one that was submitted. The queuing analysis information is something that I'm not particularly well versed in, which is why a memo was prepared. So if there are any questions, I can certainly direct them back to staff and address them that way. But I'm not comfortable, nor am I the right person to address them here.
Okay. Were there any questions about that memo from the commission? is in our pack. Member Lancaster.
Mr. Chairman. Um,
have
So
said.
I'll admit, when I looked at this on the agenda, I didn't know what this was going to entail. I wondered if this was going to be queuing analysis for the 5-year plan project prioritization. That would have been helpful, so having arterial queuing analysis. So when I read what was in the packet, it was interesting and it was helpful. It's useful for development permits and that sort of thing. It wasn't quite what I was expecting for us, but that's okay. So I guess, does this agenda item come from, I guess, developments that we've seen approved or not approved in Meridian? Is that what this comes from? Okay.
Mr. Lancaster, I would guess so. I don't have knowledge of it, but it seems like, with College In and Out and some of these drive-through businesses, that this is a factor that ACHD has to deal with off and on, it seems like. Sometimes it's obviously not a problem. Sometimes they're not sure. And so they get one of these studies. Mr. Brenner, does that sound like kind of case by case what ACHD is doing?
Mr. Chair, that is correct. Anytime there's an issue with queuing from a business, drive through, something like that, where there is a risk of that on-site queuing spilling out into the public right of way, that's where these become a necessity and where they're reviewed with the development. So that's what the memo sort of addresses and discusses the interplay between the city reviewing these and looking at on-site queuing, and then ACHD reviewing when necessary.
All right.
Chairman,
Commissioner Ballard.
I'm trying to grasp this, and I get it that cars may stop, but is there some rate that says, well, if they back up enough, we'll just have to accept that? And live with it and slow down and go by? Or are we just going to be congested and let them get their coffee?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ballard, that is something I'm unsure of. I would have to speak to our traffic teams, our engineers, to get a better understanding on that. So that's something I can reach out.
Well, no, I appreciate that, and I was asking a rather pointed question, and again, it wasn't a gotcha or, I want an answer, but it just seems kind of intuitive to me that I'm going to stop traffic on a public thoroughfare so somebody else in a commercial establishment can serve their customers. And we'll use the road as a parking lot then. Am I missing something? And I understand that somebody may take umbrage with what I just said, so.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ballard. So I guess maybe I don't fully understand your question. Are you asking? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe could you
Oh, I want
repeat your
the
question?
development, and I understand, and I watch In and Out, and it's, and I go, okay, I'll sit there for hours waiting for a burger. But are they saying that at some point we may have to simply tolerate cars pulling off and choking up that further right lane, or the right lane, to let that commercial establishment serve their customers? And that's what I'm saying. That road then becomes a temporary parking lot.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ballard, the intent is to avoid that. And so if there's a risk of that with the provided on-site queuing for a business, then if there's that risk of cars backing up into the public right of way, then that's when ACHG will get involved with the queuing analysis to avoid that.
Don't mean to prolong it, but about 4 meetings ago, had a little queuing problem with a religious establishment. And I don't know however that got resolved, but the end result was, yeah, there's gonna be some congestion on a public street fitting those cars into a parking lot.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ballard, again, this is not something that I'm an expert in. And so I can certainly reach out, ask the question if there's an acceptable limit, and what that looks like. If there's maybe certain areas where that is deemed okay, not okay, various, types of roads, arterial collector, et cetera. So I can reach out and ask those questions and report back. Absolutely.
I appreciate that. And that's not directed towards you. I just look at this and I go, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Ballard, if I may,
Yes.
I'm just going to add a little context as well, similar to Kelly. I'm not an expert either, and I'm just kind of relaying information from our current planning team, and Caleb's not able to make it today to provide any additional context. But I did want to say that as part of the conditional use permit process or any sort of administrative review here, what the planning division does, the planning staff also review the different like on-site exhibits, the stacking lanes, queuing. So there is a kind of a tag team approach that Christy alludes to in her memo. So I wanted to say that we do have city code for drive-throughs because that's specific to what this memo is. And right now, our current planning team, they are reevaluating our current city code and currently drafting changes to it to provide a little bit more clarity. And so an example of some things that they're considering are different tiers, maybe 1, 2, and 3 with different stacking lanes, providing more of an exhibit of what that would look like for the stacking lanes, distance, things like that. So there is more to come on this, and I can keep the commission updated. And if Caleb's available to have him provide a little bit more on that, because right now our code for drive-through establishments is a little ambiguous. So we're looking at trying to kind of fine tune that to make it a little bit more black and white. So they kind of work together. And I at least wanted to share that for the city side of things because there is analysis on our side as part of their land use applications.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Yeah, that is exactly what my question was going to be. What I wanted to know is, what action should this commission take? It seems like Christie's got an open door here. It says if there's local land use agencies have their own policies, we'll follow those. And so that's good to hear that the planning side is developing that. We have an ordinance review function here, and I think we'd like to be the commission and my committee maybe would like to be involved with that, with the city's approach or good, better, best drafts of what that ordinance might look like. And so, and then I think if we take the lead on drafting that, maybe we send it to P and Z too, but I would think P and Z would be the place where it would be implemented. And so if just to be clear, we're not trying to take any, conditional use work away from P and Z. That's their deal. So I just wanted to be clear on that. And that is the intent, right?
That is correct. And I can talk with the current planning staff and Caleb as well, just to see where they're at with that process. I was just kind of handed some notes to share with the commission, just so that it wasn't just all on Mr. Bruner to kind of share on the ACHD side, knowing that we have a big part of it as well.
Good. And I thought that, by the way, the study was really well done. It looks expensive. But
It was extensive.
but I don't know what the other thoughts are about that.
Mr. Chairman, I concur that the report was quite, or the technical memo was quite thorough and comprehensive, and I hope, ACHD gets similar quality on all these requests. This particular consultant that wrote this, they do good work, and John's been at our commission meetings in the past. But yeah, I agree. It was a good technical memo.
And having said that, this company's running three other businesses already, and this new one is designed along those lines. So I think both of us, our planning and ACHD, we need to try to balance this, because it seems like that's a heavy expense to add to a development when their design is just matching what's already working, across town or in Boise. And so it's, we don't want to be onerous about this on the one hand, and on the other hand, Commissioner Ballard's right. We don't want cars parked in the, out on an arterial street or even a collector. So these are things that technical work has to be done by our development people to get a good trigger that's fair, but addresses the problem with queuing analysis. And so it's good that's in the work. I guess we'll leave this subject as a future topic. And I imagine Caleb will be back to follow up, and maybe ACHD will have updates too. I guess that's a question. It sounds like we have a code that's probably out of date. We're working on it. But Mr. Brunner, is ACHD updating their rules and regulations about these kind of developments?
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure. I'd have to speak to Development Services and
Okay.
see what their policy update looks like, if they have a specific policy regarding this or any updates for it.
Well, we're interested, so I think that'd be good if we could hear that. Any
Mr.
other
Mr.
comments?
Chairman, yeah.
Yeah, Ms. Hopkins.
So I'm looking at this, the study was done because Black Rock Coffee is currently at this location. They have plenty of stacking ability in their parking lot. They don't ever bleed out into Eagle Road. And so it seems like this is working. I mean, we're pointing fingers, but maybe the church not so much, but this actual work, because I don't think they will show any problems stacking in the main arterial, so.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? All right, we will move along to the next item. If there's no further action that's needed from us, we would be interested in taking action someday. We'll get back. We have ex officio updates from our friends. Well, Kelly, do you have anything else from ACHD?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just a couple updates for ACHD. One, chip seal season is getting underway, so a little bit of far northwest Meridian is included in Zone 6, which is the preventative maintenance zone for chip seal this year. It's Eagle Star, and then just a little bit of north of U-Stick and west of 10 Mile included in that as well. And then also for the fiscal year 26 5-year work plan, that's being worked through right now. We're finalizing updates on that. And that should be available for public comment in the middle of July. And that is it for ACHD.
All right. Thank you. That's good. Ms. Klopfenstein, we have update.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I just have one update for you all that we have an upcoming public comment period on the Let's Ride Treasure Valley High Capacity Transit Pell study. So we'll start that public comment period on June 6th, which is this Friday, and it runs through June 29th. This is an online only public comment period and is the last public comment period scheduled for the project. So would encourage your participation and to share the word as well. We're hoping to get higher numbers for this public comment period. So I'll hand out flyers for the public comment period after the meeting. And then I do have one personal update for you all. My last day at Compass will be next Thursday, June 12th. And then from that point onward, Austin Miller, planning team lead at Compass, will be serving as the Compass liaison for this group. Really appreciated the last 2 years working with you all. So thank you all, and I'll pass it to whoever is next.
Thank you for being here.
And thank you for
Good
helping
luck
us
in
so
your next
much. Yeah,
venture.
yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. Next we have Kate Dahl with VRT.
Hello, Mr. Chair.
Hello.
So today, June 2nd, is service change day for VRT. We did some timing adjustments, so there's new schedules out for routes going through Meridian, including the 40, 42, and 45. There was no timing changes to the Route 30. So if you have folks on there, they should be aware of that, and we have plenty of outreach materials out about that for any riders. June 9th, we're going to be closing the bottom part of Main Street Station in downtown. All of the buses that go to Main Street Station will be picking folks up on the street level. We'll be putting in our electric charging stations. And so, I mean, customer service, restrooms, all of that type of stuff will be open in Main Street Station. Just all the buses will pick up upstairs. The other thing, we are going to be running for the upcoming Post Malone concert that's at the stadium. We will be having free fares, and there's a number of park and ride stations. The closest one, if there's any Meridian residents looking to go, will be at Town Square Mall, and fares will be free to help with congestion downtown. And then just a quick report, we held Canyon County Transit Day with the NAMPA 4 scenarios. I had mentioned last time that included reducing service, eliminating service, expanding service, and doing current service. We did get really good response. About 220 participants came to not only replied to our surveys as well as came to our open houses. They supported local public funding. They supported expansion of services. And when that was presented to the Nampa City Council, it's fairly well received. So we're hoping that we'll at least stay with current service this year and no routes through Meridian will be affected by that. But I'll have more on that as we continue through budget season. Thanks.
Hey. Good. I don't know, and we have ITD here. Justin, have anything for us? Through Mark?
I have nothing additional. I feel all talked out.
All right, thank you. Is the MPD, I don't see him. Oh, I'm sorry, Corporal. What updates does MPD have?
That's okay. I like being invisible sometimes. So our traffic team is warming up for the summer. This is our busy month, historically speaking, as far as events. Our motor officers are doing chills and thrills. We have the Dairy Days Parade, Victory Thunders coming up at the end of the month. And then a couple days we have the law enforcement torch run. So just lots of events coming up for us to work on.
Any questions for MPD?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I don't have one for MPD, but I have one for VRT if we can go back.
Yeah, sometimes we.
All right, thank you. Thanks for your allowance.
No problem.
So Kate, my question is, you mentioned free shuttle service for a concert. And that's not free, right? So is that picked up by concert organizers or who pays for that service?
Those fares will be paid by BSU.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Kate.
Commissioner Ballard.
May we go back, or you still have two more to ask?
Yes.
Okay, I'll come back to Mr. Bruner if I may.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Bruner, a question. I live at Green Hill Estates subdivision up here off of Franklin. We used to have a sign that had speed limit and a sign that said neighborhood watch. And this sign has disappeared. And somebody actually filled in where the sign was. Who would I speak to if that was an ACHD project to remove signs?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ballard, I'm not sure if that was an ACHD project or not. It doesn't sound like something, but certainly submit a request. I can inquire about that for you if you can give me a specific location.
Hickory Franklin. One lot in. So it's in between Springwood and Franklin run east-west. Hickory runs north-south. And there's two lots on that street. And in particular, it was on the west side of the street. I mow that once a week. And I just go, oh, I'm not gonna run into that sign now. What happened? I'm just kind of curious.
Oh, that's a good questioner. Good question, Commissioner. I will see what I can find out, certainly.
And in the back of my head that no neighborhood watch is a thing of the past, but I thought, well, you're here and if there's someone I could chat with at ACHD, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll see what I can find out, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Well, I've learned the hard way not to say things at people because they take offense and come back and have a chat with me.
All right. Tricia Murray, is she here? Did she have anything for us?
Chair Leclerc, Tishra is online. Usually she doesn't provide an update
Okay.
for us, but we do have Miranda Carson online.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just never saw it on my screen or anything for Miranda. Go ahead, Miranda, if you're there.
Hi, commissioners. We are gearing up for the next school year. We have summer school just started today, so that's running smoothly, and we're just getting ready for next school year and what that looks like. We're excited to have some more career and technical education shuttles next year and running those and getting those into our system. And that's all the updates I have.
All right. Any questions for Waseda Transportation? Heather, do you have anything from community development?
Chair Leclerc, I do not have any additional updates from community development.
All right. And now staff communications.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair and Commission, we have one correspondence received since our last meeting. So you have the email exchange here. There's been a bit more conversation, so I can kind of tee it up for questions. I will just kind of note that this morning I did reach out to the citizen and let them know that since I responded to him a couple weeks ago, that in conversation with Corporal Reitzel, that they've placed some speed radar feedback signs on this stretch of Pine based off of another complaint that was received by PD. And if I speak incorrectly, feel free to step in, but they have also patrolled that area. So they are aware they're receiving additional responses from folks and they're kind of paying attention to it. I think it's also bringing up the question that if additional speed limit signs should be placed on Pine. So there are conversations with ACHD as well. So I don't know if police wants to add anything, but that's just kind of a high level of where we're at with these emails.
Mr. Lancaster.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, before there's police or any other comments, could we get the area pulled up on the screens? Could we do that, Heather, please?
Is it showing up on your guys' screen? You want Pine 10 Mile to Black Cat, correct? Okay.
Pine, 10 miles Black. Okay, yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I guess if I can follow up. So the issue was there's the Chaparral Elementary School northwest of 10 Mile and Pine. And as I read it, I understand there's a school zone on 10 Mile and they're requesting one on Pine Avenue. Or they think there should be one there. Is that the gist of it?
I think that's correct.
Okay,
That's, and
thank you.
the west, yes. Won't speak to anyone else. Is there any other comments about our
Mr.
response to this? Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, and my understanding is he thinks that they shouldn't be crossing Pine and the school says, well, they shouldn't be crossing Pine because they're bused from there. Is that
That's
correct
what-
too?
yeah. That's, I'm sure, right, Miranda? The-
I'm opening that bus zone right now. Hang on, sorry, give me 1 second. Unfortunately, I do not have all our bus zones memorized. This is going to Chaparral, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes,
That is the bus zone for Chaparral. So students shouldn't be crossing Pine there.
ride the bus.
Correct, they can ride the bus.
Right.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ballard.
if I may, Ms. Hill, where does this communication currently stand?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Ballard, so this morning, so I've reached out to the citizen a few times. I followed up again this morning with an email letting him know the most recent correspondence I had with police on the matter. So I've been maintaining communication, but I have not received any responses from the citizen. So I called and then I've sent 2 or 3 emails now. So I just continue to keep them in the loop.
Well, no, I appreciate that. Okay, I get it. You know, I drive the streets every day and there's a lot of traffic. And kids do things that you don't expect them to do, and some grown-ups do some things that you don't expect them to do. But I don't know if this is really an issue, or is this somebody just says, hey, they need to slow down on a busy street? Just kind of curious, and I know your name may not be at liberty to comment, but and the police, they may be on it, so maybe I just leave it at that.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
I'll take that nod as it's time to shut up. Okay.
No, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Ballard, that's what I would say. I think at this point, I don't think there's anything for the commission to do. It's more of just for the general awareness. And as you know, Chair Steed is very interested in kind of just having some awareness so that we know what citizens are concerned about. So I'm just providing this more of that all of the agencies and partners and police, ACHD, and working with the school district, we're getting answers out to the public to at least respond to them.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I could talk about the police part of this if you'd like. So after our last meeting, we got a separate complaint about speed and noise, kind of halfway between 10 Mile and Black Cat on Pine. We put out some speed signs, which give us feedback on the vehicle traffic speeds. And basically the data we got confirmed that there were higher speeds than the speed limit. So we've added it to our list of areas that we're keeping an eye on and providing more enforcement. But that was my communication with Ms. Hill, was just kind of keep her in the loop on that end.
Good. Commissioner Lancaster.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may follow up with the corporal. So corporal, the speed limit on Pine Avenue is 25 miles per hour, 30, I don't know,
It's 35.
30, 35?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have any follow-up, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any other questions by the commissioner about this, about the commission from this issue? Okay, thanks. We'll move to the, our future meeting topics. Guess we'll put something on there about queuing analysis policy. And anything else we think is for the good of the group we should consider in the future.
I was thinking we usually have a summer break on one of these monthly meetings, and I was just gonna suggest that maybe that'd be good in July. So I'd put it up.
So now, with our bylaws, but we have to vote to not meet. It's in our rules that we do meet once a month. I think we would.
Chair Leclerc, and commissioners, I don't have the bylaws memorized. I would ask, I see that Tishra, had to hop off, it looks like at 5, because I was going to defer to legal. I guess if you guys would like, you can make a motion, because then it doesn't
Then
hurt.
it's official.
That's my advice.
So if we'd like to set our next meeting at the August 4th, first Monday of August.
Mr. Leclerc, let me help you out. If Mr. Hopkins wants to make the motion that we take a break in July and move to August, I would second that.
All right,
So moved.
moved, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. We'll see you all in August and have a nice 4th of July.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend. All right, bye. No objection, we would adjourn. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned at 5:05 PM. Thank you.